Beyond the Ring of Stones, Book 1, The Hearth of the Forgotten Realm. Prologue, The Last Night on Earth. The storm rolled in like an omen. Thunder cracked the sky open above Willowdale, shaking the windows of the Vale family's cozy, slightly cluttered suburban home. Rain lashed against the glass like fingernails, desperate to get in. Inside, the 5 cats, Misty, Shadow, Luna, Whiskers, and Tigger, huddled under the sofa, ears flat, eyes wide. In the living room, illuminated by flickering lamplight and the occasional flash of lightning, the Vale sat cross-legged on the rug, swapping ghost stories. "Well," said Rhett, the middle son, tossing a handful of popcorn into the air and catching it in his mouth, "if ghosts are real, why haven't they ever haunted us? We've got the perfect haunted house. Creaky stairs, weird attic smells, Dad snoring." Dad, known to his sons, affectionately and exasperatingly, a skeptic, snorted. "Because ghosts aren't real, Rhett. Just like magic, fairies, and that dimensional rift you swore you saw behind the shed last Tuesday." Mum, always impeccably dressed even in sweatpants, her eyes holding galaxies of unspoken dreams, smiled softly. "You never know, dear. The universe is stranger than we give it credit for." Seth, the eldest, adjusted his glasses. Statistically, interdimensional travel is theoretically possible under quantum string theory, though the energy requirements. Kit, the youngest, barely 8 but with the soul of an ancient explorer, interrupted, eyes gleaming. What if we did go somewhere? Somewhere with dragons? And floating islands? And cats that can talk? Tigger, as if on cue, meowed loudly and batted a glowing dust mote that had drifted in through the window. The room fell silent. Then Rhett laughed, a little too nervously. "Wouldn't that be wild? Just, poof. Gone. Into another world." Lightning flashed, brighter than any before. Not white. Not blue. Violet. The lamps died. The air crackled. The cat stood up, fur standing on end, eyes reflecting impossible colors. And then, crack. Not thunder. Not the house settling. It was the sound of reality tearing open. The stone circle appeared in the center of the living room, ancient, moss-covered, humming with power. The walls of the house dissolved like mist. The ceiling became sky, swirling with unfamiliar constellations. The rug beneath them turned to moss. The scent of petrichor and wild magic flooded their senses. They were no longer in Willowdale. They were elsewhere. And standing before them, wreathed in starlight and shadow, was a lion whose mane was woven from the night sky itself. "Welcome," it rumbled, voice like tectonic plates shifting, "to the first glade of Iltherion. You have crossed the Vale." Chapter 1, The Trial of Dream and Battle. The Vale stood frozen. Dad stumbled back, knocking over a glowing mushroom. This is mass hallucination. Carbon monoxide. Bad sushi." Mum crouched beside the stone circle, fingers brushing the runes carved into its surface. They pulsed beneath her touch. "No, love. This is real. Look." She pointed. The cats were floating. Not falling. Not panicking. Just hovering, as if gravity had politely excused itself. Kit reached out to touch a firefly the size of his fist. It chimed when he did. Rhett grinned. "Told you." Seth was already scanning the tree line. "We're exposed. No weapons. No supplies. No intel. We need to move." The lion, Astron, as he would later introduce himself, lowered his head. "You are safe, for now. The Circle of Elders shields you. But its power wanes with the moon. You have until dawn to prove you belong here." "Prove?" Dad scoffed. "Prove to who? You? The trees?" "To yourselves," Astron replied. "The trial of dream and battle awaits. Face your inner shadows. Survive. Or be cast back, broken." Before anyone could protest, the ground dissolved beneath them. They fell. Not down, but sideways, tumbling through a kaleidoscope of memories, fears, and half-forgotten dreams. The trial begins. Each veil was separated, plunged into their own nightmare realm. Dad, the hall of broken things? He stood in an endless corridor of shattered clocks, torn blueprints, and half-built inventions, all his failed projects, all his dismissed ideas. At the end of the hall stood a mirror, and in it, a version of himself that sneered. You spent your life denying wonder. You called magic a nonsense. You told your sons their dreams were childish. And now? You're lost in a fairy tale. Pathetic. Dad's hand shook. He picked up a wrench from the floor, the same one he'd used to fix the porch swing, the toaster, Rhett's bike. I didn't deny wonder, he whispered. I just needed proof. The mirror cracked. He swung the wrench. It shattered. Light poured in. Mum, the garden of unbloomed roses. She walked through a garden where every rosebud refused to open. Each one whispered a dream she'd tucked away, the art studio she never opened, the novel she never wrote, the trip around the world she postponed for someday. A figure in a grey cloak stood among them. You buried your magic beneath laundry and grocery lists. What a waste. Mum knelt, cupping a bud in her hands. No. I planted it. In my sons. In my home. In love. That's the deepest magic of all. The bud bloomed, crimson, radiant. The garden erupted in color. Set, the library of failed plans. Endless shelves held books titled, What If You're Not Good Enough? The Cost of Responsibility When Logic Fails. A shadowy doppelganger sat at a desk, scribbling frantic notes. You carry everyone. What happens when you break? Set didn't answer. He walked to the central hearth, pulled out his lighter, the one Dad gave him for camping, and lit it. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be here. He tossed the lighter into the hearth. Fire roared. The library burned away. Rhett, the arena of lonely heroes. He stood in a coliseum, surrounded by cheering crowds, who vanished when he turned to look. Opposite him stood champions of 100 realms, all alone, all victorious, all hollow. You chase adventure to outrun silence, said his opponent, a version of himself, clad in tattered armor. What happens when no one's left to watch? Rhett grinned. Then I'll make my own audience. He pulled out a whoopee cushion, yes, he'd had it in his pocket, and sat on it. The sound echoed like thunder. The arena shattered into laughter. Kit, the labyrinth of forgotten names. Endless corridors. Doors labeled No One Listens, Too Small, Just a Kid. Behind each door, a version of Kit, ignored, dismissed, left behind. At the center, a shadow with too many teeth whispered, You'll be forgotten. Like all children are. Kit sat down. Cross-legged. Pulled out a crayon and a scrap of paper from his pocket. I won't be forgotten, he said, drawing a picture of his family. Because I'll remember them. And they'll remember me. He held up the drawing. It glowed. The labyrinth dissolved. Reunion. They awoke together in a floating meadow, suspended among the stars. Astron stood before them, pride in his ancient eyes. You have faced the shadows within. Few do. Fewer survive. Above them, a dragon of pure light descended, scales like liquid auroras, wings stirring the fabric of the sky. I am Solrith, keeper of the trial. You have passed. You may remain in Eltherion, if you choose. Dad looked at his family. At the cats, now curled together on a cloud-like tuft of grass. At the star swirling above. He took Mum's hand. We choose. The dragon roared, not in fury, but in joy. The world welcomed them. Chapter 2, The Moon-Petal Path, and Glimtwig Bottom, Esquire. The return to the first glade was disorienting. The stone circle still glowed, but faintly now, its power spent. Beyond it, the forest stirred. Shapes moved in the shadows. Eyes gleamed. "We need to move now," Set said, hefting a fallen branch like a staff. "Agreed," Mum said. "But where?" As if summoned, a voice piped up from the ferns. "A whom?" "Excuse me? Interdimensional refugees?" "Over here." "Yes, you. The ones with the floating felines." Out stepped Glim Twigbottom, goblin bureaucrat, part-time mayor, full-time chaos agent. She was 2.5 feet tall, dressed in a pinstripe waistcoat, mismatched socks, and a hat that changed color with her mood, currently anxious lavender. Her monocle magnified one eye comically. In her clawed hand, a clipboard. "Names, please. Origins. Magical aptitude. Dietary restrictions. Snack preference, tragic for survival in the hollow. Also, do any of you have experience with bureaucratic wyverns?" "No?" "Shame. They're terrible with forms." Dad blinked. "Are you real?" Glim rolled her eyes. Says the man who just duelled his existential dread in a metaphysical coliseum. "Yes, I'm real. And you're lucky I found you. The Duskstalkers, shadow beasts loyal to the exiled Shadow Court, hunt those who cross the veil unprepared. And you, my dears, are very unprepared." She snapped her fingers. From the trees rolled a rickety, floating wagon pulled by two enormous, grumbling beetles with harnesses made of glowing vines. "Welcome to Express Transit, Hollowbound. Next stop, civilization. Maybe. If the beetles don't unionize again. They're demanding hazard pay for exposure to mortal nonsense." Chapter 3, Haven's Hollow, City of 1,000 Wonders. Haven's Hollow was not a city. It was a symphony. Built into the side of a floating mountain, its towers spiraled upward like seashells carved from crystal and living wood. Bridges of woven light connected districts. Airships shaped like teapots, books, and giant cats drifted between spires. Winged librarians zoomed past, shouting about overdue prophecy scrolls. Markets sold bottled laughter, bottled storms, and bottled silence, great for noisy neighbors. The cats lost their minds. Luna immediately climbed a tower and declared herself Duchess of the Rooftop Realms. Tigger joined a sky patrol of winged raccoons. Misty opened a nap optimization consultancy. Shadow and Whiskers? They vanished into the alleyways and reappeared hours later wearing tiny capes and carrying stolen pastries. The Vales were assigned temporary housing, a cozy cottage on a floating island connected to the main city by a rainbow bridge that only appeared when you hummed the right tune. Kit figured it out in 10 minutes. Then came the jobs. Mum, the Guild of Curious Things. Mum's organizational skills and uncanny intuition made her an instant hit. She was hired to recatalogue the sentient sock collection. They get very dramatic if mismatched. And soon promoted to head of mystical inventory. Her boss? Master Quilby, a badger in a three-piece suit who spoke exclusively in riddles and drank tea brewed from moonbeams. "You have the sight, Ilara Vale," he told her one day, adjusting his spectacles. "Not of futures, but of connections. You see how things, and people, fit together. That is rare. That is powerful." She didn't know it yet, but she was becoming a weaver of fates. Dad, the Department of Arcane Infrastructure. Dad's first task, fix a malfunctioning anti-gravity lift in the Ministry of Whimsy. He used duct tape, a rubber band, and a stapler. It worked. The director, Archmagus Thorn, a stern elf with a mechanical arm and a deep hatred of unregulated magic, stared in disbelief. You didn't use magic?" "Nope," Dad said. "Just physics. And stubbornness." Thorn hired him on the spot as Chief Mundanity Officer. Tasked with keeping magical systems from exploding by applying non-magical countermeasures. His toolkit now included a fire extinguisher, a kazoo, 3 rolls of duct tape, and a plunger for interdimensional clogs. Set, the Academy of Tactical Realities. Set thrived. He learned to wield an ether blade, a weapon forged from solidified starlight. He studied monster ecology, ley line navigation, and tactical formations. His mentor? Commander Vexis, a grizzled Minotaur veteran with a cybernetic eye and a heart of gold beneath his gruff exterior. You think too much, Vexis told him after a sparring match. Good. But sometimes? You must feel. The blade knows the path. Trust it. Set's first field mission, escorting a caravan through the Whispering Wastes. They were ambushed by Sand Reavers, Scorpion Centaur hybrids. Set's quick thinking saved the caravan. He earned his first commendation and a scar across his left forearm. He didn't mind. It felt earned. Rhett. The Skyward Scouts. Rhett joined a ragtag crew of dimension hoppers, treasure hunters, and professional troublemakers. His captain? Zara the Zephyr, a Moonwing, a half-elf sky pirate with a mechanical wing, a penchant for explosions, and a heart as big as her bounty. Rule 1, she told him, tossing him a grappling hook. Never go in without an exit plan. Rule 2? Always bring snacks. Rule 3? If all else fails, jump first, ask questions later. Rhett's first mission, retrieve a stolen sky crystal from a gang of cloud goblins. He did it by challenging their leader to a dance-off. He won. The crystal? Secured. His reputation? Launched. Kit, ambassador to the Feybound. Kit, with his endless questions and fearless curiosity, became fast friends with the Feybound, tiny, mischievous spirits who lived in the walls, floors, and teapots of Haven's Hollow. Their queen? Princess Lyrael, a sprite no taller than Kit's hand, with wings like stained glass and a voice like wind chimes. You see us, she told him, perched on his shoulder. Most mortals do not. Or they fear us. You? You listen. Kit became their ambassador. He negotiated peace treaties between rival fairy clans. He recovered stolen moondew. He even helped plan the Grand Feybound Ball, where he danced with Lyrael, floating 3 feet off the ground. Rumors spread he was betrothed to her. He denied it. Mostly. Chapter 4, Whispers of the Shadow Court. Peace never lasts. Rumors spread through the Hollow. The Shadow Court, exiled rulers of the Umbral Wastes, were amassing power. Their agents infiltrated towns. Their magic corrupted ley lines. Their goal? To shatter the veil between worlds and plunge Iltherion into eternal night. Then Rhett vanished. His last message found something big. Shattered spire. Obsidian key. Don't follow. Ah. They followed. The rescue mission. Set led. Mum brewed truth serums and protective charms. Dad packed his mundanity kit. Kit brought the Feybound. Who whispered secrets only he could hear. They tracked Rhett to the shattered spire, a floating ruin humming with unstable magic, guarded by duststalkers and nightmare hounds. Inside, they found Rhett chained to an altar, surrounded by hooded cultists. At the center, Lady Nyxera, High Sovereign of the Shadow Court. Beautiful. Terrifying. Her form shifted between elegance and horror. Her voice scraped against the soul. You are insects, she hissed. Mortals. Tourists. You do not belong here. Mum stepped forward, hands glowing with golden light she didn't know she had. We belong wherever we choose to stand. Together. What followed was chaos. The Battle of the Shattered Spire. Set versus the Void Weaver, a creature of living entropy. Their blades clashed, starlight against shadow. Set fought not with rage, but with calm. He remembered Vexis's words, trust the blade. He did. He won. Dad versus the Nightmare Hound, a beast that fed on fear. Dad played the kazoo. Loudly. Off-key. The hound howled, not in rage, but in agony. Discordant sound disrupted shadow magic. The hound fled. Kit and the Feybound swarmed the cultists like glittering hornets, stealing their masks, tying their shoelaces together, and dumping enchanted itching powder down their robes. Mum's light burned away illusions, revealing hidden traps, secret passages, and the true location of the obsidian key, the artifact Nyxera sought to unlock the veil. Rhett? Rhett used his chains to swing-kick Nyxera in the jaw, sending the key flying. It hit the ground. And shattered. The spire began to collapse. "Run!" Dad bellowed. They fled as the ruin imploded behind them, Lady Nyxera's scream echoing across the sky. "This is not over, Veils. The key shards will call to me, and I will answer." Chapter 5, Adventurers of Record. Back in Haven's Hollow, battered but alive, the Veil stood before the Guild of Adventurers. The Guild Master, Centaur Ion Thistlebrook, top hat, monocle, hooves polished to a shine, read their report. "You defeated a Void Weaver? Survived a collapsing spire? Broke the obsidian key? And you did it, as a family?" "We did," Set said. "And the cats helped," Kit added. Thistlebrook sighed. "Fine. You're registered. Effective immediately. Team name." Mum and Dad exchanged a look. "The Hearthborn," Dad said. A murmur ran through the guild hall. The name carried weight. A family. Together. Unbroken. Their license was stamped. Their cottage, now reinforced with wardstones and cat-proofed sky nets, became their base of operations. Mum's potions? Legendary. Dad's inventions? Revolutionary. Set? A rising star in tactical command. Rhett? The realm's most unpredictable treasure hunter. Kit? Official ambassador to the Feybound realm, and rumored future consort to Princess Lirael, he still denied it. The cats? They ruled the Hollow. Literally. Luna held court every Tuesday. Tigger led the Sky Patrol. Mistis Nap Consultancy had a 6-month waiting list. Lady Nyxera still lurked. The obsidian shards were still out there. But for now? They were home. They were adventurers. They were the Hearthborn. Epilogue, Hearthfire at dusk. That evening, as the twin moons rose over Haven's Hollow, the Veils sat on their porch, sharing stew conjured by Mum and bread baked by Dad, which still sang when buttered. Rhett tossed a glowing ball for Shadow to chase across the sky. Set studied a map of uncharted sky islands. Kit whispered to a cluster of Feybound nestled in his lap. Mum leaned against Dad, who, after a long pause, reached over and took her hand. "You were right," he murmured. "About magic." She smiled. "Took you long enough." He chuckled. "Worth the trip." She looked at their sons. Their cats. Their floating home. Their impossible, wonderful life. Every second. And as the stars blinked awake above them, the Hearthborn knew. No matter what came next, they'd face it. Together. Post-credits teaser, the first shard. Deep in Kit's backpack, nestled between a half-eaten fairy cookie and a doodle of a dragon cat, something pulsed. A shard of black glass. The obsidian shard. It glowed faintly. And far away, in the umbral wastes, Lady Nyxera smiled. Soon, little Hearthborn. Soon. End of Book 1. Coming in Book 2, The Shattered Key, the Hearthborn must find the shards before Nyxera does, or watch as the veil between worlds tears open forever.